Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Long, long ago, the people of Israel lived in Egypt. At first, they lived well. But then a new king, a pharaoh, came to power. This pharaoh did not remember the good things that Joseph had done for Egypt. He saw the Israelites and noticed they were growing in number. There were many of them, and they were strong. The Pharaoh became afraid. He worried that the Israelites would become too powerful. He thought they might join with Egypt's enemies and fight against Egypt. So he made them slaves. He forced the Israelites to work very hard. They built cities for the Pharaoh, carrying heavy stones and mixing mud for bricks. Their lives were filled with pain and hard labor. Yet, despite their suffering, the Israelites continued to grow in number. This made the Pharaoh even more scared. He decided to make a very cruel law. He told his people, "Every time a Hebrew woman has a baby boy, you must kill him. Throw him into the Nile River." This terrible command was meant to stop the Israelites from growing. The mothers cried and feared for their sons. The future for the Israelites looked dark and without hope. But even in these very difficult times, there was a feeling that something big was about to happen. The people hoped for someone to save them. They waited for a person who would lead them out of slavery and into freedom. A hero sent by God to end their long suffering in Egypt. This was the dark beginning of a great story. 2. A baby in a basket. Life for the Israelite people in Egypt was very difficult. They were slaves, forced to work hard every day for the Pharaoh, the powerful king of Egypt. The Pharaoh had given a cruel order. All newborn Hebrew baby boys must be killed. But one special baby was born during this hard time. His name was Moses. His mother, Jochebed, was a brave woman. She hid him in secret for 3 months, keeping him safe from the Egyptian soldiers. Jochebed knew she could not hide Moses forever. She had a desperate plan to save her son. She carefully made a small basket from strong papyrus reeds. To make it float and keep water out, she covered it with sticky tar and pitch. It was a small, safe boat for her precious baby. With a heavy heart, she placed baby Moses inside. Then she carried the basket to the river Nile, the biggest river in Egypt. She gently put the basket among the tall reeds by the riverbank. Moses' older sister, Miriam, stood a little way off. She hid among the plants, watching nervously to see what would happen to her baby brother. Soon, a group of royal women came to the river to bathe. It was the Pharaoh's own daughter and her servants. Her heart felt soft when she saw the basket among the reeds. She told her servants to bring it to her. When she opened the basket, a baby boy was crying. He was so small and helpless. The princess felt a strong pity for him. She knew right away that he was one of the Hebrew children, but she decided to save him. Miriam, still watching, stepped out from her hiding place. She bravely asked the princess if she should find a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby. The princess agreed, so Miriam quickly brought her own mother, Jochebed, to the palace. Jochebed was incredibly happy. She could now care for her own baby, right under the nose of the Pharaoh, and no one would know her secret. When Moses grew a little older, Jochebed brought him back to the princess. The princess adopted Moses as her own son and raised him in the palace. She named him Moses, which means drawn out of the water. So Moses grew up as a prince of Egypt, living a life of comfort and power, even though he was a Hebrew by birth. This was God's special plan to keep him safe and prepare him for his future. 3. A prince runs away. Moses grew up in the grand palace of Egypt. He lived a luxury as a prince. He wore fine clothes and ate good food. But he never forgot his true people, the Israelites. He often left the palace to see them. He saw them working hard every day under the hot sun. They were slaves, forced to build cities and monuments for the mighty Pharaoh. Their lives were difficult and sad, full of harsh labor and pain. Moses felt deep sadness and growing anger when he witnessed their constant suffering. One day, Moses went out to where the Israelite workers toiled. He watched them with a heavy heart. Suddenly, he saw an Egyptian soldier. This soldier was cruelly beating a Hebrew slave. The poor slave cried out loudly in pain, but the soldier did not stop his blows. Great anger filled Moses' heart. He could not stand by and watch his countrymen suffer any longer. He looked carefully around to make sure no one was watching. Then he acted quickly and powerfully. Moses struck the Egyptian soldier, and the soldier fell to the ground dead. Moses was very scared after this. He knew he had done a terrible thing. He quickly tried to hide the soldier's body by burying it in the sand. But secrets are hard to keep. The next day, he saw two Hebrew men fighting. When he tried to stop their quarrel, one man looked at him and said, "Who made you our leader? Are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian?" Moses understood then that his secret was out. His crime was known by others. The powerful Pharaoh would surely hear about it soon. The punishment for killing an Egyptian was a death penalty. Moses knew he could not stay in Egypt any longer. He had to run away to save his own life. He quickly left the palace, leaving behind his comfortable life as a prince. He traveled far from Egypt, journeying alone across the vast, empty desert. He went to a faraway land called Midian. He hoped to find safety and a new, quiet life there, far from the Pharaoh's great anger and the danger he now faced. This was the beginning of a new, unknown journey for Moses. 4. A message from God. Moses lived in the land of Midian for many years. After fleeing Egypt, he found a new home and a quieter life. He became a shepherd, a job that took him out into the quiet deserts with his flocks of sheep and goats. During this time, Moses met Zipporah, the daughter of a Midianite priest named Jethro. Moses married Zipporah, and they started a family, raising their children in this peaceful land. He built a new life, far from the troubles of Egypt. One day, as Moses led his flock to Mount Horeb, also known as the Mountain of God, he saw something truly amazing. A bush was burning with fire, but strangely, the bush itself was not destroyed. The leaves remained green and untouched by the flames. Moses was filled with wonder and confusion. He decided to turn aside and look more closely at this unusual sight. As he moved nearer, a voice called out to him from the middle of the bush. It was God. The voice told Moses to stop and to remove his sandals, explaining that the ground where he stood was holy. Moses felt a deep sense of respect and fear. He covered his face, afraid to look directly at God. God told Moses, "I have surely seen the trouble of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries because of the cruel slave drivers. I know their sorrows. Now I will send you to Pharaoh. You will bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." This was a huge and sudden command for Moses. He had been away for so long. Moses felt small and weak. He asked God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" God's voice was strong and clear. "I will be with you." Moses then asked, "If I go to the Israelites and they ask me, 'What is his name?' what should I tell them?" God answered, "I am who I am. Tell them, 'I am has sent me to you.'" Moses still had doubts about his ability to speak well. He was worried he would not be able to convince the Pharaoh or even his own people. But God comforted him. He promised to give Moses the right words to say. God also told Moses that his older brother Aaron would meet him and speak for him to the people and to the powerful Pharaoh. With God's powerful words and promises, Moses understood the enormous task ahead. He had to return to Egypt and lead his people to freedom, into the land of Canaan, a land rich and good, flowing with milk and honey. 5. Let my people go. Moses and his older brother Aaron went back to Egypt. They followed God's command. Their big task was to speak to the Pharaoh, the powerful ruler of Egypt. Moses was not a good speaker, so God had told Aaron to speak for him. Aaron was 3 years older than Moses. Together they stood before the Pharaoh. God, the God of the Israelites, says, "Let my people go," Aaron declared. He spoke with a clear voice. He explained that God wanted the Israelites to leave Egypt so they could worship him in the desert. But the Pharaoh listened and just laughed. He did not know this God. He saw the Israelites as his slaves, valuable for their hard work. He refused to let them go. In fact, he made their lives even harder. He ordered his overseers to give them more work and fewer materials. Moses and Aaron returned to the Pharaoh many times. Each time they asked for the Israelites' freedom, and each time the Pharaoh said no. He was a proud and stubborn man. Because of the Pharaoh's refusal, God decided to show his power. He sent terrible things upon Egypt. These were called the 10 plagues. First, the water of the Nile River turned to blood. Then frogs covered the land. After that came lice, then flies, then a sickness that killed Egyptian animals. Boils appeared on people and animals. Next, a great hailstorm destroyed crops. Then locusts ate everything that was left. Darkness covered Egypt for 3 days. Each time, Pharaoh promised to let the people go, but then he changed his mind when the plague stopped. Finally, God sent the 10th and last plague. This was the most frightening. In one night, the firstborn child in every Egyptian home died, from the Pharaoh's own son to the son of the lowestly servant. Only the Israelite homes were safe because they had followed God's instructions. This terrible event broke the Pharaoh's will. He was full of sorrow and fear. In the middle of the night, the Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron. His heart was finally changed by the great suffering. "Get out," he commanded them. "Leave Egypt, you and all the Israelites. Go and worship your God as you asked." After many years of suffering, the Israelites were finally free to leave the land of Egypt. 6. A path through the sea. After the final terrible plague, Pharaoh finally told Moses and Aaron that the Israelites could leave. There was no more time to waste. The Israelites, who had suffered for so long, quickly gathered their things. There were many of them, men, women, children, and old people, all eager for freedom. They took their animals, their few belongings, and set out. This great departure from Egypt was called the Exodus. They were filled with joy and hope as they walked away from the land of their slavery. Moses, guided by God, led them, and his brother Aaron was with him. They walked day and night, leaving Egypt behind them. But Pharaoh, king of Egypt, quickly changed his mind. He felt foolish for letting his slaves go. "Who will do our hard work now?" he thought with anger. So he called for his fastest chariots and his strongest soldiers. He gathered his entire army, hundreds of chariots and thousands of men, and began to chase the Israelites. He wanted to bring them back to Egypt by force. The Israelites walked for several days, full of hope. Then they saw a huge problem. Before them lay the vast, deep Red Sea. There was no way to go around it and no boats to cross. They were trapped. As they looked at the impassable sea, a cloud of dust appeared behind them. It was Pharaoh's powerful army, getting closer and closer. The loud noise of chariots filled the air. Fear filled the hearts of the Israelites. They cried out to Moses, "Why did you bring us out here to die in the desert? It would have been better to stay slaves in Egypt than to face death here." Moses told the terrified people not to be afraid. He promised them that God would fight for them. He raised his staff high over the Red Sea. Then a very strong east wind began to blow. It blew all night long. The water of the sea started to divide. It moved apart and stood up like two very high walls, one on their right and one on their left. A dry path appeared in the middle of the sea. The Israelites were truly amazed. They began to walk on the dry ground. Thousands of people, with their families and animals, walked through the sea. Pharaoh and his army soon arrived at the sea's edge. They saw the dry path. They were still determined to catch the Israelites, so they rode their chariots into the sea. But the ground in the middle of the sea became soft and muddy. Their chariot wheels got stuck, and they moved very slowly. As the first light of morning came, Moses raised his staff again. The massive walls of water crashed back down. The sea covered all the Egyptian soldiers, their horses, and their chariots. Not one Egyptian soldier escaped. The Israelites were completely safe on the other side. They had walked a path through the sea to freedom, and God had saved them from their enemies. 7. The 10 Rules. After the great miracle at the Red Sea, the Israelites continued their long journey. They traveled through the wilderness, a vast and empty land. God led them to a tall and holy mountain called Mount Sinai. Here, God called Moses to climb to the top alone. Moses went up to talk with God and receive special laws for his people. Moses stayed on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. The Israelites waited below. After many days, they grew very worried and impatient. They thought Moses would not return. So they went to Aaron, Moses' older brother. They asked Aaron to make them a god, something they could see and worship to lead them. Aaron collected their gold jewelry, melted it, and made a statue of a young cow, a golden calf. The people then worshipped it, made offerings, and celebrated. From the mountain, God saw what the Israelites were doing. God became very angry at their sin. God had written 10 very important rules, the 10 Commandments, on 2 stone tablets. These rules taught them how to live well and how to worship only Him. Moses took these tablets and went down the mountain. When he saw the golden calf and the wild dancing, he was filled with rage. He threw the heavy stone tablets to the ground, and they broke into many pieces. Moses then destroyed the golden calf. He made the people drink water mixed with its dust. This was a punishment for their terrible disobedience. Moses went back up Mount Sinai. He begged God to forgive his people. God was merciful and told Moses to carve 2 new stone tablets like the first ones. God then wrote the 10 Commandments on these new tablets again. However, because the Israelites had disobeyed God and shown little faith, they could not enter the Promised Land at that time. God decided they must wander in the desert for 40 years. This long period was a lesson for them. The generation that had sinned and doubted God would die in the wilderness. Only their children, a new generation, would be ready to finally enter the land God had promised. 8. The Promised Land. The Israelites had wandered for 40 years in the desert. Finally, they came to the edge of the Promised Land. This was the land God had promised them long ago. God spoke to Moses. He told Moses that he would see the land, but he would not enter it. Moses was 120 years old. Moses then gathered all the people. He stood on the banks of the Jordan River. He reminded them of God's laws, which they must follow in their new home. Moses gave his final blessings to each tribe of Israel. He chose Joshua, a good and strong man, to be the new leader. Joshua would lead the Israelites into the Promised Land. After this, Moses went up to the top of Mount Nebo. From there, he looked across the vast land. He saw the beautiful land that his people would soon call home. Then Moses died there, in the land of Moab. No one knows where he was buried, but it was in a valley opposite Beth Peor. Moses was a great prophet and a strong leader. He led his people out of slavery. He gave them God's laws. He helped them become a nation. Even today, Moses is seen as a great lawgiver. People in different religions respect him as a very important prophet. For example, Pope Francis, a respected leader, once spoke to the United States Congress about Moses. He said Moses showed the importance of fair laws and human dignity. In many places, like the U.S. House of Representatives, Moses is shown as a key figure in law. He is often called a deliverer who helps people in hard times. His life shows faith and strong leadership. What do you think was Moses' most important act for his people?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.